Near hosts the most complex smart contracts in the world. We actually have an Ethereum EVM running as smart contract on Near. So we have another chain as just a smart contract on Near, just to give you, an example of complexity and performance that you can get.
Before we dive into Near and what you've been up to over the last 6 years, and indeed a little bit before that, I want to start by asking you what brings you to ETH CC this year, and what have your sort of main expectations been, and have they been met?
Yeah, ETH CC always been a place to go to connect with the ecosystem, to present what we've been working on, to meet other developers, both kind of in broader ecosystem and in Near. We've been coming since, I think, 2019. I think it's been a great event. I think the space is bigger, which is good. So there's more people who actually made it inside. There's obviously insane amount of side events. We've been doing a lot more AI stuff given my background, and so there's like an AI side event or two every day. But I think generally it's good to see lots and lots of kind of work that we've put in and lots of other people put in starting to pay off, where we see new applications that are chain abstracted that actually like solving user problems, as well as some of the AI side is like starting to heat up. Not there yet, but I think we're gonna see a lot of interesting stuff in next year.
Do you see a growing convergence between AI, which is sort of your background, and blockchain, which is where you spend most of your time and energy now? Do you see that growing convergence?
Yeah. There's a bunch of new people coming in into that space, as well as existing folks. But I think we're not there fully yet. I kind of classify there's pretty much people who see it now in AI and coming into blockchain. We have a little bit of that. But we're still, in the AI space at least, there's a lot of skeptics, right? And I think Web3 hasn't proven yet out. So Web3 wants to get into AI, right? But we need the other part.
I was going to say that, yeah. At the beginning of 2022, it would have been almost unthinkable to even ask a question of, about people coming from AI into Web3. Everyone seems to sort of be part of this mass exodus out of Web3 into the AI space. But I'm sure you know people that are still in the AI space. Can you talk to me a little bit about that growing convergence? Do you think people are maybe hopping between the two domains, or are the two domains just about to clash?
So I think it's about to crash, clash. But there's few things that needs to happen for that to really play out. But there's like underlying forces. The underlying forces is kind of traditional AI startups are struggling, right? They need to raise at like lots of money at high valuation, and then they cannot justify the amount of revenue they bring kind of in the next year or two. And so it ends up being kind of this weird valley for them where they cannot raise the next round. And we've already seen this with even a few prominent startups, right? They kind of ended up being like sold off / turd for scraps. And I think this is like a real challenge that's gonna hit a lot of folks in kind of traditional AI. Just like valuations were too high, like the revenue recognition is not coming as fast, right? There's a lot of open source, so people like choose to build their own stuff, even enterprises, instead of like buying. At the same time, I think there's like fundamental issues where we need to address, right? Around data, around kind of access to compute, around how privacy works for your personal data, how creators are rewarded, which blockchain is really good at. And this is where we see a lot of projects starting to work, right? But they kind of need to prove out that this actually works before I think we'll see kind of inflow and more collaboration work together. And so we actually, we're hoping we can be this hub where we bring people from both sides. And we're planning to start bringing in more kind of regular AI folks, kind of educating them actually about Web3, as well as engaging more researchers in academia, and giving them the tools that Web3 has to offer, because some of them are kind of highly underpowered, don't have compute access, don't have data access, that Web3 actually can bring them.
Given your AI focused background and the fact that you've obviously made a significant impact on the blockchain space as well, rather as a technologist, could you explain how Near's approach to scalability and usability differs from some of the other platforms out there, and how that contributes to this vision of yours in terms of being a hub to sort of bridge these two domains?
Yeah, I mean, so the background, Near started as an AI company, right? And we actually were doing data labeling crowdsourcing, and we needed to pay people. Very simple problem. Pay a little bit of money to a bunch of people around the world. And this is like 2018. There was Bitcoin and Ethereum, but already even then the fees were too high, right? We're paying like, maybe a couple bucks a day or something to students. And the fees were like $5, right? More than what we're paying. And so kind of we saw an opportunity to like, okay, well, can we build something that's truly scales, can facilitate this like programmatic payments, ownership, and is easy to use, right? Because at the same time, like, being technical, I can understand how, what hash is and, why like we should use last 20 bytes of the hash as my public address. I still think that's strange. Right, I still think that like if I cannot remember my, username on chain that other people can use, it's strange, right? So we put a lot of work in how do we build usable blockchain that actually scale to 1 billion users. That when there is 1 billion users, the fees are not exuberant, right? But actually still kind of stay at the same low number. And there are a few different things we've done to enable that, right? So on a protocol kind of low level, it's a sharded blockchain, meaning that we can actually increase capacity of blocks as more demand comes in. And so subsets of the network are validating subsets of a block. And actually we're releasing a new Nightshade 2.0 version of this in the next few weeks, which rotates which subset of validators validates every block. Right, so every block you sample new random set of validators and they validating this part of the block. What this allows to do, as I said, is as you have more demand, more users come in, you can actually increase the block size, right? And if there's less demand, you actually decrease, right? So you need less and more validators proportionally, but there's fees being paid, so you actually have economic incentive to grow and reduce the network size. So that solves a lot of the kind of this complexity that right now most of the blockchains are kind of running on one machine, right? If you think of it, yes, there's a lot of nodes, but they're all doing the same work. And so you're limited by what one machine can do. And Near is not, right? You can have a lot more kind of state, so all the state kind of problems go away. You can have a lot more bandwidth as well because you can have transactions going to different shards, and you can have a lot more processing, transactions per second. Now, that was just kind of fundamental, we need to have that. Coming from, Google, from my co-founder, built a sharded database before that's used by Fortune 500. This is like, we need to have this. This is a design. Now, usability, we put a lot of work in account abstraction, right? Near accounts are named accounts, like mine is, root.near. It's really easy, you can go use it, right? We have lots of different keys that you can have from different devices to access this account with different permissions, right? You can have a key that, only can transact once a day. You can have key that, maybe limits how much money you can spend per day. You can have a multi-sig on your account. All of that is programmable, available kind of from there. You can have meta transactions, right? So applications pay for your transaction fees. And so because of this, Near became the most used by kind of daily and monthly active users chain because it's really easy to hide the blockchain and integrate it into existing Web2 applications with massive user bases because it's so easy to onboard people and kind of not put all of the kind of complexity of the blockchain to them. And so that's been probably biggest differentiator, beyond the kind of this fundamental sharding design that we've seen. And then on the developer side, we have used so-called WebAssembly, which is virtual machine that's used in every browser in the world. It's supported by Mozilla, Microsoft, Google, and it allows to run Rust, it allows to run JavaScript, Python, pretty much most of common languages, there's a way to run it. And so that kind of opens up all of the, I would say, limitations that usually people have when writing smart contracts. And so Near hosts the most complex smart contracts in the world. We actually have an Ethereum EVM running as smart contract on Near. So we have another chain as just a smart contract on Near. Just to give you, example of complexity and performance that you can get. So that's kind of the stack of and decision making that we've put in.
I was just about to touch on developers there, and you mentioned it very briefly. You've been an outspoken proponent of open source for quite some time, and Near obviously has a growing developer community. What new tools, resources, or events are you working on introducing to support the developers that work in that system and encourage more open source innovation?
Yeah, so there's like few different aspects of this, right? We have a whole kind of ecosystem developer community called Near Dev Hub, which are doing a lot of different work across everything from DevRel and like answering questions to they just launched actually an open source program called Sloth, which kind of reward, like it's a reward program for open source contributors, right? Not just in Web3, like more broadly. They've been training developers. They obviously host hackathons. They have kind of various badges and all of this different kind of life cycle of development that's happening there. So that's doing a great job. Obviously, still need to continue growing that. I think the other side, it has always been how do we bring the kind of the value that we created at Near blockchain to more developers across Web3. Right, and so that's why we've had Near DA, Near Data Availability, which now a layer 2 developers can use to tap into Near to get cheap data availability, because that's actually what Near at the base is. We've worked on so-called chain signatures in this chain abstraction mindset to bring a functionality that you can transact from Near on every blockchain. Right, so now you can have, again, new use case that is something that I would say like completely new mind space, right? It's allowing smart contracts to sign transactions on any chain, right? This is something that right now you can only as a user sign a transaction. Now smart contracts can sign transactions. It opens up a whole new set of use cases. We have a ton of developers building or just having a meeting, people like, holy shit, like this is possible. This is like opens up a whole new set of things you can do. So big part has been like what innovative things we can put in front of people to encourage them and kind of open up new space. And finally, on AI side, the kind of when I say the hub, we're actually building a hub of open source integrations, such that if you're building on any infrastructure in AI Web3, if you are having compute, maybe you're sourcing data, maybe you're a researcher working on a new model or a new agent system, you can combine all of that and present it as a single API to the developers who actually want to use it in their application or in a wallet or in a kind of business case. And so that is also going to be an open source framework where people can contribute and kind of work together and learn from each other. Because I think one of the issues I see in AI space broadly is that compared to closed labs, they're actually all working in the same monorepo and kind of building on top of each other's work. In open source, this is not happening. Like there's lots of different people working on in different places. It's not very interconnected. There's no learning loop that's happening. So we're trying to solve that as well in open source mindset, really creating incentives as well to attract more researchers, like from AI, from academia, from smaller startups, to really build on top of each other.
I want to just for a second before we get back to this, holy shit, I didn't realize you can do that moment, because I think that's quite interesting. And I do want to talk about that. Just very briefly, I want to take us back to late last year, let's say around September. Near surpassed Ethereum in daily user count, but it was lagging behind on revenue. And some people pointed out this is an issue. Others said it's just a function of reality. I'm curious, do you consider that to be an issue? Did you at the time? Or is just that a result of Near's configuration, and was that intentional? And secondly, what steps, if any, have been taken to address this?
Yeah, so we don't see it an issue. It's like saying that if you have like a concert with cheaper tickets, you have less revenue, right? It's like, yeah, but we have more people like joining the experience. Again, fundamentally, the way we think about it is we're trying to build something that we can onboard 1 billion users. And so anything under 1 billion is not, it's like, this is not a time to figure out revenue. It's a time to grow and figure out how do we bring more of this functionality to the users. And so, yeah, for us, from September actually till now, I think we 3x'd on daily active users, right? We went from like 1 million, I think, back then to now 3 million, like on many days, right? So far, historically, we've 10x'd every year. So we've every year we've 10x'd, like from 10,000 to 100,000 to 1 million, and last year, and so we're like at 3 million now. So if we continue that trend, right, that's when we're gonna start figuring out revenues, etc. And again, for networks, I think the revenue is very different, and the way you actually build economy is very different. And blockchain should be economy of scale, right? It should be about not like maximum extractive value from every transaction, pun very intended, but about like how do we serve more users and how do we create bigger economy. And then if there is, when we have trillions of dollars of economy moving from traditional finance, creating new economies, then you capture a really big part of the value because it kind of happens in that. And again, we're not thinking of that as just near. That's why we have chain abstraction. We have this multi-chain interconnectivity because it's coming for the whole Web3, right? Near already brings, for example, we have a dApp, which originates, I think, 90% of volume on Mode. We have a Hot, which brought 600,000 users to Base, right? So we actually are already like this entry point to Web3 for many users who then go to other chains as well to experience.
I don't know about you, but 10x growth consistently is quite a holy shit sort of data point for me as well. And with that, can we just go back to the conversation you referred to where people said, wow, I didn't realize you could do this. Can you sort of give me a bullet point list of things that you've come across over the years explaining what it is that you've built, and the reaction's been, wow, I didn't know that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff we have, right, which are kind of like cool nuggets of the whole design, right? So for example, you can sell an account, right? On no other chain you can sell your regular account, right? You need it to be a smart account, you need to like plan for it, you need to figure it out. On Near you can just like, we have a marketplace. You can go, like it strips all your keys, right? And somebody else can add their key when they bought it, right? Which means you can sell a business, you can sell a revenue stream from NFT royalties, you can have locked tokens that potentially you can sell as part. So it's a very powerful concept that like just enabled by the fact that like the account abstraction is so generic and available. We have a really cool kind of application called KeyPalm, which their main kind of use case they're targeting is ticketing, where you can just send somebody a URL which has kind of a one-time use private key, you rotate it, and you just have a ticket that you can use. But underlying tech is actually programmable keys, right? So like each key has a set of rules attached to it. And so when you execute transaction, some rules get executed. So for example, I can give you a trial account. I can give you an account which you can use, but you cannot withdraw money from it, right? And then if you want to get full access to it, you repay me back what I put in, right? You can have, I don't know, like an account that only can vote on DAOs, right? Or whatever. Like you can program pretty much what like people can do with accounts and give it to them. You can, while they're still non-custodial because you're not able to take it back, right? But you also they're not able to, take it fully to themselves until some condition. The chain signatures now is enabling a whole new set of use cases. So, for example, you can do subscriptions. Like one of my pet peeves in Web3 has been we cannot do just regular subscriptions, right? You need to like set a whole like transfer like allowance, to infinity and hope nothing will happen, right? Or you need to top up some account all the time, right, yourself. You pretty much need to send transaction. And so with chain signatures, because smart contracts can send transactions, you can authorize that smart contract to withdraw money from your account at some specific rate or specific conditions. And so that's, I think, is super powerful because it's going to enable a whole new set. You can do social recovery, you can do all of this kind of use cases that like would be super complicated, would require like some really complex, maybe account abstraction to like implement. Now you can do with chain signatures. But you can also do that on other chains. You can also execute, you can deposit Bitcoin and, fractionalize it. You can have multi-chain lending, multi-chain dexes. You can have, we have the Bitte, which is doing AI-originated transactions across multiple chains. So you can say like, hey, build me an index of all tokens that launched in the last 3 months and buy $100 worth of, right? So they can like parse it out, fetch the data, create, set of transactions on other chains to buy it and build your portfolio, right? So stuff like this, I think we're gonna see more and more of this kind of both natural language kind of navigation of this multi-dimensional, multi-chain space, and then execution through chain signatures that actually can run everywhere.
I have a feeling somebody pitched an idea to me last night that's very, very similar, and you might have just ruined their dreams of the next billion-dollar company by having
They should just
built
build it with Near. That's easy answer.
Brilliant. I want to ask you what your sort of vision for the next 5 years is, and what are the key milestones that you're really working every day towards?
Yeah, so I think there are few kind of key pieces. I mean, there's like a high-level vision. High-level vision, I call it user-owned internet, right? This is something that we've changed a little bit the wording on it, but it's the same vision we've started in 2019, where we said, hey, we want internet where everyone controls their assets, data, and power of choice, power of governance, right? And it's a pretty hey, very generic. Most of Web3 fits into that, right? Especially because of assets. But it also includes data. It includes kind of this ability to choose, to govern, to decide. And I think that's a really important concept that we kind of keep not being able to figure out. So what I'm seeing in the next 5 years? Well, we need to abstract the blockchains, right? The current experience of choosing million chains, figuring out a bunch of wallets, etc. This is not going to fly. And I think we're actually going to see this adoption faster than people think. Like last year, people really didn't believe this is going to happen. Now we have chain abstraction kind of as a narrative. We have a lot of people building in this space. We have now first few apps that are like truly chain abstracted, the wallets as well. So I think we'll see that playing out really, really fast and kind of starting to flip some of the centralized exchanges. I think that's my big pet peeve is centralized exchanges right now are chain abstracted apps. Because you as a user of centralized exchange don't need to think about which gas, which chain, which wallet, it's all in one place. So we need that experience and beyond just exchanges, to all of the Web3 experiences. The other part is on the AI side, I think we will see this convergence. Again, it'll take some time, it will take a lot of work, and it will take a lot of showcasing how we can use the kind of coordination in Web3, capital formation in Web3 to leverage to help with AI research in open source. And then leverage that open source to benefit more people that closed source can. Super complicated. I'm not going to say this is an easy job, but this is something that I'm really excited to push forward. I'm excited to get more people on chain, right? Again, we've seen so far people switching from using Stripe to using Near and saving 100x on fees. Because for microtransactions, Stripe charges 30 cents for each transaction. On Near, it's a fraction of a cent, right? So we'll see more of that as well happening because people are like, hey, actually, if I want to move USDC around and I want to settle payments, etc., actually blockchain is better. It's faster, it's secure, and it's way cheaper. So seems like a good plan. But even going beyond, how do we get more marketplaces? How do I want to buy a car? Why am I going to these weird websites and with a bunch of middlemen? There should be a marketplaces with global delivery. Oh, here is if you're trying to buy it from some other country, here is all the surcharges, etc. for localizing. But that's your marketplace. It's blockchain is really good at, of like creating this global visibility in what's happening. So I think we'll see a lot of that as some of the regulations actually flip. And that's probably the bigger unknown, sadly, than technology. Like we can build marketplaces, but we need some of the regulations to finish that. Like people can receive crypto for selling things, right? Like that needs to happen. But I think that will also be the next kind of, I think we'll get with the current state, we'll get probably to like 10 million daily actives, but the next one will be that is like really tapping into real world and being able to both transact, receive payments, receive salary, pay your bills, buy things, all on chain. So yeah, to me, these all things are all like working in unison, right? There's kind of a stack of things that needs to happen. I have this like user-owned internet stack, right? There's like private data and creator data rewarding. There's user-owned AI. There's kind of blockchain interactions, and there's like this chain abstracted experiences and kind of broader experiences that all coming together to kind of form the new way we interact. That's not going through some of the centralized parties, right? Which themselves we need to acknowledge are competing for our attention and trying to maximize how much time we spend there.
Speaking of, final question that we like to ask our guests at EthCC. We need some alpha. Can you give us some alpha?
Well, we have a preview of this AI hub that we're working on, which we're inviting people to like sign up for, and we're going to be onboarding them. And so if you are either a developer who, or somebody like even not developer, but if you're able to specify a set of success criteria for your AI problem, like let's say you want financial analysis, or you want to predict something. If you can specify a set of criteria, you can upload them to our hub, and then this will be shown to all the researchers who then will try and build an AI model and AI agents to really kind of beat your benchmark, right? And so what we're trying to do is create this marketplace of pretty much people coming with real world problems with something that if solved, they can use in their application, and then a bunch of researchers and kind of developers who are really interested in hard problems, leveraging AI, leveraging this kind of new wave of tech. And we're creating this market to really propel open source research and open source development. And then you can plug it into your application with a simple API and start using. So sign up for that.
Where do we sign up?
We'll share the link. Yeah.
Can't wait. Thank you very much for making time to talk to us. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.